All right. Next, let's talk about Cosima, god of the Voyage. Cosima is a 3-mana legendary creature god, 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may send Cosima on a voyage. If you do, exile her. And it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Cosima is exiled, you may put a voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it and draw X cards, where X is the number of voyage counters on it. So at the beginning of your turn, you can send her off, and then every land you played while she's exiled grows her counters. And then when you finally return her during your next upkeep or any further upkeep, you draw cards for every land you played, and she gets a +1/+1 counter for every land you played while she was voyaging.
Yeah.
Which ties in really well with all the landfall stuff from.
Oh, because they all come in and play at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you can exile her one turn, play a land, play a fetch land, sacrifice it, play something else for land. Then your next turn she comes into play and you draw 4 cards if you've played that many lands in one turn.
I think they were very specific with what they're trying to get across story-wise with her. She literally goes on a voyage.
Like the story the card wants to
tell. She's gone for the turn. Bunch of stuff happens while she's gone. And then when
she finally shows up again, she
is powerful.
She is stronger, and she brings with knowledge of cards, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a very blue kind of thing, too, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a little weird to be tied in with how many lands you've played, but it really gets across the voyaging and seeing new lands aspect that goes with it.
Mm.
And, of course, all colors are allowed to care about lands to one extent or another, because every deck's going to have lands in it.
Right.
The other option, you can play her backside, which is the Omen Keel, a 1 generic mana, 1 blue mana legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 3/3 with crew 1. And whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library, and you may play lands from among those cards for as long as they remain exiled. This is something you generally see with black, where it lets you steal your opponent's cards directly, but it's only lands, and vehicles have to hit your opponent in order to get those cards exiled in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is not a strong suit of blue, usually.
Yeah, right. This is another instance where you really want multiple Cosima, so you can have the Omen Keel in play while Cosima is on a voyage, and the Omen Keel gives you a lot more options to play.
They bounce back and forth
Yeah.
between.
It also gets better if you have effects like Explore or Exploration that let you play multiple lands a turn instead of just getting lands from your deck, because it lets you just keep playing more and more lands that you've stolen from your opponent by hitting them with vehicles.
Yeah, and I like the vehicle half also really tells a story where the vehicle is going on a voyage and discovering a land.
Not just discovering them, it really is raiding your opponent actually and taking their
Which is
land.
something
I guess not the
very
lands in play,
Viking-like.
but the ones from the deck.
The Vikings are well known for their longboats going out and raiding and coming back. That's just totally in keeping with. In fact, if you have a Viking set, you expect a longboat somewhere in there. So, yeah, this is perfectly in keeping.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned in one of the last episodes that Cosima was born a cosmos monster, was a giant dolphin that then entered the gods' realm, made herself a human, and just kind of got along with the gods and became one of the gods. And had several children with Allrund over the 20 years that she lived in the gods' realm, and then kind of moved on to see new places, because she really likes to be on the move. So Allrund and Cosima together had 3 children, Torolf, Bergi, and Kolvari. Those are going to be the next 3 gods we talk about.
Well, it doesn't match up to Odin's wife at all, but I don't think that's in terms. There's also not a god or goddess of the voyage. There is a messenger goddess who she was known for going off and doing things and coming back. She was also associated with like rumors and glory and message, stories. So she wasn't just going out and giving commands or doing little tasks, but she also spread the word and came back with word of great deeds other people had done or what have you. So
Cosima seems to be a bit more independent than that. Instead of like voyaging for someone else's sake, she really seems to be doing it for herself, because she just likes going around to different places.
Yes. Now there are also The other two aspects, one is that was born something other than a god and became a god, is something that has been known to happen in Norse and German, that could happen. Loki is being the perfect example. He's basically a cosmos monster in fact, but because he was adopted by Odin and raised as Thor's brother, he's a god for that. And yet he obviously doesn't fit in it well with all the other gods. So having her leave again is perfectly in keeping. We also do note the whole transformation of shape-shifting from something into human and then back again. She only has, in that sense, one form, that the other alternate form, and that's as a dolphin, but still that does show up.
In either Kaya's story or Nico's story, one of them, I believe, actually gets to borrow the omen keel in order to travel around the different realms. I think it must have been Kaya's story. So the ship itself does make an appearance in one of the stories.
In a couple other cards.
Yeah, so the one thing I wanted to mention, the two cards I found that had flavor text that reference Cosima also seems to suggest that she's not exactly hot-tempered, but like... they could just be attributing this to her too. It doesn't necessarily have to be true. Well, actually, the first one completely like quotes her. So the flavor text on Disdainful Stroke says, "The Skald boasted that he could outsing the sea. Cosima heard him and drowned his village with a single wave," which is attributed to the Longbeard saga. Like, this doesn't have to be true. It could just be a story that, Cosima heard him and drowned his village in a single wave, because the rest of her biography doesn't seem to suggest that she's... I mean, vengeance is not the right word.
Well, vain, I think.
That hot-tempered that she would do that. Or, that vain.
Yeah.
That kind of seems to be something you attribute more with the Greek gods.
Very much
in my
so,
head,
I was
Norse
thinking
gods.
that this is this sort of thing Athena or someone would, you besmirched my reputation, I will take it out on you and your village. Yeah, that's very Greek.
But it could just be something someone attributed to her, whether or not it's something she literally did. The flavor text doesn't... It seems to suggest that she did it, but it doesn't actually say that. She's also mentioned on Run Ashore. It says, "Which one of you slug-brained milksops forgot to make an offering to Cosima?" And the artwork shows a longboat being completely washed ashore by a big tidal wave.
Well, see, that's a direct reference to making an offering, because we were kind of talking about that before.
Yeah, so that does seem to suggest that they do make offerings for good weather and other blessings. Whether or not they actually care about that, we haven't found any proof of, but the Vikings seem to think it's true.